Well, they need, in my opinion, like a Manhattan Project in order to get the Republican rotted husk across the finish line in only 315 days or whatever it is from now. And so
I told you he was going to be spice, Bosie. I told you he was going to bring the heat. And ladies and gentlemen, speaking of black pillars, Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen Reports has found his way to join us. Rich, if you mind sharing the mic there with Mark. So Mark, we've been going through, I'm sure you already know the conversation we've been having, performance versus action. Talk to us. Now, we know that you were, and in the Washington Post reported, that you had a conversation in the White House with President Trump in the Oval Office. You talked about a little bit about that with them. You talked about it on your show. What was the presentation that you made to the president there regarding this very issue?
So his approval rating is not terrible. I don't think that's the problem. I don't think that's the polling to look at anymore. Really, I think the problem is Republicans are going to lose. Like right now, you look at the polling, it's not going to look too good a year from now. And so how do you prevent this historic pattern of statistically, it just happens, the pendulum swings back? Well, they need, in my opinion, like a Manhattan Project in order to get the Republican rotted husk across the finish line in only 315 days or whatever it is from now. And so
I told you he was going to be spice, Bosie. I told you he was going to bring the heat.
And how do you even do that? You have to lay out a plan. It's like, hey, we know we can't fix the problems that are bigger. I mean, the real number that I've been tracking is that only 27% of America thinks that today's children, like mostly you, will be better off than your parents. And that's horrifying. And that's way different than in 2016. So this is a different America than the first time Trump won. And I think that they need to acknowledge how bad the actual problems are. They're systemic. And so you're not going to be able to fix that between now and November of 2026. So lay out a plan and show Americans that, hey, we're going down the path to the golden age. It's not here yet.
Now, I would even note, though, because since you had your meeting in the White House, there were some other people who also had meetings in the White House around that period. You've noticed a shift in the messaging from the president, from Caroline Leavitt, from the communications team out there. The president did just give this speech the other night from the White House regarding economic issues, economic conditions. Do you think they're starting to be a little bit more resonant with what you're saying?
I think they're taking a step in the right direction. I heard the word American dream. I heard acknowledgement that they're going to come out with more plans for things like housing. But I'm worried fundamentally that the right metrics aren't being tracked. And so they keep coming back to things, and the word is affordability. That's what everybody uses. No, I'm talking about the death of the American economy that works. Like, I'm really worried that my kids aren't going to have jobs. I'm quite frankly worried they're going to get pulled into a war with NATO against Russia or whatever. But I still don't see an acknowledgement of focusing on that. If I were the Republican Party right now, I would be trying to come up with new measures of the economy that reflect things like wealth inequality, and they should be tracking things like the median first-time homebuyer age. And I don't even think it's on the radar screen. And so what economic metric can we all feel happy about in October of 2026 and look back and say, you know what, Trump got us there? I argue there isn't one. It's not going to be the stock market. The job market's not going to heat up. How are we going to do that in time?
What about the Gini coefficient?
Something like that. Let's do this, right? The Gini coefficient. But if you look at all these metrics, they're bad. Top 10% of income earners are half of all retail sales in America. It's really bad.
And I'll give you another example of that, because if you guys, any Black Friday shoppers out there today, and there's a couple of, it's fine, we did it, but I've noticed though, did anyone see that the Black Friday shoppers, all the sales, all the retail stores, they were extending the Black Friday days. So it was Black Friday, then Saturday, then Sunday, then Monday. It became the entire week. You don't do that if people are out there shopping on Black Friday the way they usually do. That meant that sales were down, and any retailer is going to tell you that because they're trying everything they can to get people in. And when people are doing that at Christmas time, that is not a solid economic indicator. That's an indicator that people out there are hurting because prices are high. And I've said this to the White House, and I say this publicly, they're high because of Joe Biden. All right, let's be very clear about that. Bidenflation is still in the system. Bidenflation is the reason we're in the situation that we're in. However, you have to be able to be clear about this and say we're fighting a war against Bidenflation, and ultimately it isn't going to be that in some cases gas prices, egg prices, beef prices, you can bring prices down, but in most cases it's going to be about bringing wages up.
100%.
100%. Joshua, oh no, you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, your touchdown spiking cannot exceed the number of yards that you've actually run down the field. All right? That speech, they went in the right direction. They tried to listen to you, Mark. They did, you know, and we know there are other people. They're trying. But you can't go out there and pretend the golden age is here already. You can't do it. And I understand that people want to take credit for their successes. But Barack Obama did what with George Bush? He blamed him for 4 years straight. Why? Because it works, and because it's true, and it works better when it's actually true. But you have to lead with empathy, and that's something the White House hasn't been able to do. Obama was great at it. He said, you know, Bush destroyed it. We've done a lot of great stuff. But there's just so much more to go. There's so much more we have to do. That is the way he always spoke about it. That's the way you got to do it.
I will say, I think my absolute favorite part of that speech, well, there are two things. One was, of course, the information operation that they ran, right, where they made everyone think that it was going to be like a Venezuela, invasion and bombing and all the rest. Why did they do that? They got all the broadcast TVs in America, all the broadcast networks, all those editors, and every single ABC, NBC, CBS affiliate to say, oh, maybe we better tune in, this could be a big speech. And he gets out there and he starts saying that, oh my gosh, not only am I going to help you with economics, but we're giving the entire active duty military a Christmas bonus of $1,776. That was great. I think that was the best note. I think that was the best target. They're giving me the 10-minute sign. Do we want to do a couple of questions? Anybody want to do a couple of questions? Let's do that. We're going to have to do these quick, so we'll just go. I saw over here first, actually, so let's go right there.
Hey, how can we start communicating about the Biden thing? Because inflation is cumulative, and people need to know that, and somehow they don't get it. Like, hello?
I just keep saying, look, we have the greatest word. We invented it in 2021, linguistic warfare, which Joshua knows, Bidenflation, Bidenflation, Bidenflation. If you notice, Secretary Bessent has started to use that word again, and I think I would love to see the entire administration just reminding people over and over, the Bidenflation is still there, and it's a zombie inflation.
Can I make people mad? I want to make some people mad.
Here we go. Here it comes.
So, yeah, Biden inflation was bad, but the system's been broken for a lot longer than that. And if I look back specifically at the thing that had the most impact personally on my career, and I think a lot of people would agree with me here, it's not the Biden administration, it's George H.W.'s Immigration Act of 1990. And so what I would say is, yeah, sure, definitely. Biden was the cherry on top of this wreckage that has stolen the American dream from everybody. But I think that, and one of the things I said for Trump is that, like, sir, I think you need to fight the oligarchy and not be the oligarchy. And I've done a lot of polling, for instance, on J.D. Vance. He polls incredibly. He's doing better than Trump was in April of 2022. In all of our matchups, there's only one person that's ever beaten J.D. Vance, Bernie Sanders.
Wow.
So warning. Warning.
Wow.
Warning. You
Think about that.
See what I'm talking about?
All right, let's go. I think there was right there.
Hi, Jack. So I'm also a Catholic, and I think it's been shameful to see conferences and, dioceses and bishops like the USCCB speak out against Trump's immigration policies, despite them saving millions of children's lives. And I think that's something that really hit home for me after recently seeing Sound of Freedom for the first time. I'm a little
Sound
late
of
to
Freedom.
the party. So my question for you is, how can we as Catholics, and more importantly as Christians and fellow believers, educate each other, especially I'm a Turning Point chapter officer as well, and I want to teach my community in El Paso, Texas, a very blue city, about how Trump is actually saving lives and stuff. So what are some suggestions that I can...
I think you just answered the question. Get people to watch Sound of Freedom. Just get them to watch that more and more and more to actually understand that these people that are coming in, they're not just being, coming here, oh, we want a better life. They're being exploited. In many cases, children are involved. In too many cases, children are involved. And that's exactly what Trump is doing to fight this. This isn't about assimilation. It's about exploitation. And I think that's key. I think that's really a big part of the key to shifting on this issue.
Yeah, turn the moral high ground around.
Yeah.
Because the truth is they make those arguments thinking and pretending they have the moral high ground until they learn that human trafficking is big business. And it's being driven and fueled and allowed by these groups. Turn it around in them.
Turn it around. Who's next?
Hey, Greg Jones from Conservatives USA. Hey, question I have for you is, back in the 60s, there was a housing crisis. I don't know if you know that in California. So what developers did, went out and bought land, and they just made tract housing. 3-bedroom houses, 1-car garage, 1,100 square feet, and they built them in masses. Now that's called Orange County, California. So why don't we look at developers to build these houses, which we have the land, and just track them all out, let the young people purchase them. You can build them for $150,000, $200,000 and get them in the initial housing, and then let them step up from there.
It's my understanding that the administration is actually working on a housing plan that's going to be coming out here very soon. I don't have specific details on it, but stay tuned. I think you're going to hear something very, very soon about that. All right, I see a bunch of hands. The lights are like really bright, so just grab somebody.
So there's 4 of you up there, and we came here to find out what we can do about it. I'd really like to find out, this is about 100 people here are pretty well involved, pretty well, they understand what's going on, but what do we do? What do you actually really do? I mean, do all of us write letters to the editor? They won't print most of it. Give us, each one of you, what we can specifically do to start moving down what you want. And part of that is, which peoples do we listen to? We just went through a whole thing about people dumping on each other in the main union over there. That's not helping us. We need you to give us some specific attitudes of what to do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the passion. So one thing that each and every one of us can do, we all live in an area where I'm sure there is a village council, there's a city council, there are township trustees, there are local officials. The best thing that we can do is localize first. Your community, your city, your elected leaders, talk to them about what it is that you care about. If you attended Cliff Maloney's session yesterday, I'm doing a book with Cliff about local politicians and how to become one. One thing is to consider running for office and making changes that are local. The second thing to do is people who are currently in office, their priority is to stay in office, get reelected, or get promoted to the higher office. Anything that threatens that terrifies them. A little bit of fear persuasion goes a long way. The left wins, despite unpopular ideas, because they agitate. The best thing you can do is agitate your local leaders. Annoy them respectfully, show up gently, and make them do their job. That is the best thing you can do. Get in their ear.
Yeah, I'm not a political activist. I don't think Rich would consider himself a political activist either. I think the way to look at pollsters is that I've been to DC, I've seen how it works. I think that a lot of people who are rich, a lot of foreign governments, a lot of people who are not you, have their interests represented, and I kind of see myself as really one of the few lobbyists for the American people. And what I'm going to tell you is that when I hear Republican officials talk, systematic change is not on the map. They think they have the right message. They think they just need to vote harder. They think they just need to raise a little bit more money or have a better ground game. And I think we're in a major political realignment. I think that they need to acknowledge that they have to actually stand for something, and that something is systematic reform, economic and government reform.
And my big thing, and I'll add just to this, and I want to see if we can get time for 2 more quick questions. Name and shame. Just name and shame these local officials. You're going to say the same thing. Find the local communists in your area, name and shame them. And by the way, find the local rhino in your area and name and shame all the rhinos as well. They cannot stand mockery. They cannot stand being named. All right, we got to get Captain America back there. We got to get Captain America. It's so good.
Thank you for giving me a chance to speak, and thank you for providing this. Anyway, is there any actions about reforming the welfare and the health care? And there's tax loop, because I do taxes, and I do see so many people taking advantage of the tax loop, and they getting the maximum benefit of everything. And if we tighten up the welfare reform too, so that we can get rid of a lot of the illegals.
Well, I'll tell you one way. I know how to get rid of $8 billion of welfare fraud in Minneapolis in 2 seconds.
Stay on track. They all go back.
They all go back.
Stay on track. They all go back.
But number 2, we have to absolutely reform these systems, because there's so much scamming, there's so much fraud that goes in. There's too many loopholes in the tax code. And I'm sorry if that's not a Republican, kind of thing to say, but it is a populist thing to say.
I think healthcare is a really good example of how the right needs to get smarter, because I don't think they have a plan for this. And right now I'm telling you that the Democrats are winning on the issue of healthcare. And what's their solution? Their solution is single payer. And so I don't think the Republicans can actually compete on that unless they do something better than just transfer payments.
And also, you got to go full Maha. You absolutely must go full Maha. And we're not seeing that happen yet. There's a lot of There are schemes afoot to try to separate MAGA and Maha is one of the most popular political movements in all of America today. It's probably more you guys would know. Is Maha more popular than MAGA?
Yeah, well,
On
with
the
certain
margins,
people.
with certain people,
Yeah,
it is.
with
And
certain
key groups like, oh, I don't know, suburban women, for
Suburban
example,
women. I was
which we're
just-
trying to win back. I think we have time for one more.
So I have a question about the book.
Let's go.
So I've read it already, but how do I, inform people that don't read books, don't pay attention to politics, that communism is here and is thriving? How do I get the uninformed people, the people that don't care, to care about the communism and how bad it truly is?
Real quick here, we're getting the stop sign. But on that, rather than focus on the problem, the communism, trying to convince them on that, rather show the anti-communist, the positive populist, right-wing economic populist vision instead. What is often more compelling to action, besides fear, and if you can't sell the fear, you sell the vision of the better way in lower egg prices, lower housing prices, more affordability, and like we always say, stay on track. They all go back.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Mark Mitchell, Rich Barris, Jack Posobiec, Joshua Lysek,